Alright guys, so I apologize about the background noise. I was just doing a bit of journaling about to land in Geneva. So yeah, whatever. Audio quality is probably not going to be the best, but I was journaling and reflecting over the past 5-10 years of my career. Things I did right, mistakes I made, and I think it's no secret that I have done very, very well in the info space. I think, to be honest, there's a case to be made that I probably have done better than anyone else I know in terms of actual take-home profits over the space of the last 5-10 years in info. And, not only just to do it at mid-ticket price point, to do it high ticket, to do it low ticket. I understand the info game, in my humble opinion, better than anyone else on earth, or at least info in the way that you understand it. The other day I was sat down with one of my friends, and he does $1.4 billion a year with education, $250 million in EBITDA, but these are in-person colleges, so obviously it's a very, very different game than what we're playing. And all that to say that I think I have this very unique perspective where I have physical product brands. This is a black cap from my eyewear business. We don't sell this, we just give this as a little free gift for people when they order 2 or more caps, 2 or more shapes. As you guys know, I have Big Day. I don't have it here with me, and I invest in a lot of D2C physical product brands as well. I have a lot of software businesses, some which are really I'd call B2C. For example, Flows, I would call that a B2C software, or at least that's the bulk of our revenue, which obviously makes things a lot more difficult. Then I have some real enterprise B2B stuff, which I don't know at the time of recording this. Maybe my plan is basically reveal one company a month that I own or I have a majority stake in. Just because, over the last few years I've kept kind of quiet about this stuff. But anyways, this is beside the point. The reason I give this context is really just so you understand that I see each business for what it is, its pros, its cons, and I can tell you that the e-com guys want to be in info guys want to be in e-com, the SaaS guys want to be in, the grass is always greener. And I think every business has its pros and cons, and for me personally, if I had to pick one, I would pick info. And the reason why is because in terms of bang for buck, quality of life, I think info people have it better than anyone else on earth because of the free cash flow. But the funny thing is, the things that give you free cash flow is what a lot of the info people try to remove themselves from. So I think I have just this, my anger towards the info space, it's weird. My anger towards the info space reminds me a lot of C19. During C19, listen, I was loving life. I was making a crap ton of money from my investments because of all the money printing. I was making more money than I ever seen in my entire life, just passively, true passive from investments. Looking back, obviously, we all know that's, a once-in-a-generation experience, that level of money printing, and that sort of increase in asset classes. As many people know, even back then I had millions of dollars in watches before the whole thing started, so obviously did incredibly well with that. I had a lot of money in crypto, so those are just amazing times for me personally, and I was traveling around the world. Obviously, this restrictions did not affect me at all. Even when I was traveling to hotels, obviously things were super cheap because, the place was half empty. All in all, I could not, and I was able to be super locked in, and that's really when the whole monk mode thing started. So I loved it. Yet I had such anger towards everyone else whose livelihood was getting taken away from them, and I'm like, do you not realize that you're basically getting and you're just sitting by and doing nothing? It's funny, that anger I had towards the world regarding C19 is a very similar anger I have towards info space and the people who have taught info over the space of the last 5 years, because so many of the concepts are taught by info people that just do info. I don't ever hide the fact that, at least at my current career stage, I have made majority of my money through info. I love it when people tell me, oh yeah, you're course seller final boss, as if I'm going to be offended by the fact that I'm the best in the world at an industry that literally everyone aspires to be in and wants to get into. Even people with a lot of money, they're like, wow, this is the best free cash flow business on earth. So trust me, when you tell me, oh, course seller, final boss, thank you. I appreciate it, especially because not only have I done it for myself, that's what my agency did. My agency, for 4 years of the 6 years I was running my agency, we worked with info businesses, majority of our clients. So I've really seen it all at this point, and because I've seen it all, I can just tell you that a lot of things that are taught to people in the info space are wrong, and I will try to dispel one myth today. I can list off 100. One thing that people say all the time is, oh, don't sell your time for money. Now, of course, that's true for low labor tasks, and of course, that's true for tasks which go above your earning threshold. So basically what you want to do is you want to find out how much you're earning per year before let's say, discretionary expenses, and every business has discretionary expenses. It's nothing nefarious. It's just like, obviously, did you need that new Pro XDR display, the $5,000 monitor, or could you have gotten the $500 monitor or $1,000 monitor? Like, that's kind of what I mean. Of course, it's still a business expense. And by the way, I live in Dubai, so I guess as of recently, I have no skin in the game. I'm really just trying to clarify here that, every business has, I guess, their true reported profits, and then they have their business profits, pre-discretionary expenses. So the reason I say that is take how much you make in the business pre-discretionary expenses, aka, that Pro XDR display, or, maybe that $1,000 pen you got to reward yourself. You understand what I'm saying here. Or maybe that trip, which was not 100% necessary that you traveled, but you were still able to write off. So you take that, you divide it by the amount of hours you work, and you should definitely be tracking how many hours you work. For a lot of people, you realize you work a lot more than you probably think you do. Or for some people, you might actually realize you work a lot less. I actually had this. I realized, at least in the info business, I work way less than I thought I did. In my mind, I thought I was working so much, and then I took a step back and I tracked my hours, and I was like, no, damn, I'm really not working as much as I thought I was. But anyways, all that to say, take your income, divide it by the amount of hours, and that is how much you earn per hour. Now, the difference is, or one thing that people don't take into consideration is, a lot of that income, like for example, for me, a lot of that income is going to happen no matter what, right? So it's like, this horse is running, right? The system's horse. So a lot of people think, oh, there's no point on me doing the sell your time for money thing, because this horse is running already. It's like, yeah, but what if you had two horses running in the race? How much further could you go? You could literally double your income, because this stuff is going to happen no matter what. So if you can come in and you can assign more time, and you have basically your systems income, and then you have your sell time for money income, and you have these two horses running at the same time, you're going to end up netting a lot more. And I said this to a gentleman a few months ago, because he's making about 120K a month, or 100K a month in profit, I should say. And he wants to get to 250 a month. So he has this new offer that he's launching. It's 15K, so he needs to sell 10 units a month. And he's like, yeah, I want to remove myself from the business already. And I said, listen, I can tell you've been, unfortunately, listening to a lot of these info people that have no experience outside the info space. And I'm trying to be as respectful when I say that as possible. I'm really not trying to talk down on people. It's just, listen, it's business to business. Like, for example, the principles that I apply in my e-commerce business, those principles don't work in my info business. And also between different info types, like even if the CEO of Masterclass, which is a $2.7 billion company, they do almost $100 million a year revenue, but they're still to hit self-sustainability, which is basically corporate jargon for they're not profitable. And they've had $460 or $490 million in funding. If the CEO of Masterclass offered to work at my company for free, I would still decline, because they're two different kinds of businesses. The businesses are run two very and dramatically and drastically different ways. I'm not trying to put anyone down. I just think that sometimes, unfortunately, you've got a lot of these info people where they'll listen to books on multi-billion-dollar companies, and it's like, you're not a multi-billion-dollar company, and that's the truth of it, and you never will be. A personality, as in using your face, a personality-led info business is never going to be a multi-billion-dollar corporation. That's the truth of it, okay? The funny example I give with this is, people say, oh, don't sell your time for money. And then I remind them, Taylor Swift sold her time for money on her last tour, and she made $1 billion. She sold her time for money, literally. And she decided to sell her time for money while she was still earning, like, unspeakable amounts of money passively through royalties, licensing, merchandising, all this stuff. So this money was coming in no matter what. And don't get it twisted, a world tour, it's not like it's easy on you. You're traveling state to state, country to country, and it's not like just the 2 hours on stage. The amount of preparation, it's almost like a year of your life gone. But even someone in her position, to basically sign away a year of her life for $1 billion is worth it. So Taylor Swift sold her time for money, made $1 billion on her last tour. The CEO of Google sells this time for money and makes $100 million plus a year. Your favorite NFL athlete, your favorite Formula One driver, they sell their time for money. Your favorite football player, they sell their time for money. Sometimes there's nothing wrong with selling the time for money, just as long as it's worth it. That's why I try to remind some of these info people. Like this gentleman, he was saying, oh, I have a 15 grand offer. So I said, okay, cool. You want to make an extra 150 grand a month. So you have to sell 10 units of those. He says, correct, but I want to remove myself from it. I said, listen, my friend, you got to understand the fact that when you are personality led, as in, people, you're drawing people in through content, people know, like, and trust you through content, or maybe even through ads, right? But the person who does the ads
that then goes to a VSL or a webinar, or like, you know, the entire indoctrination process and the entire sales process is led through you, right? You are their code of contact. You are the person they know, trust, like, they want association to, they want closeness to, in whatever way is feasible. That's an You're telling me you want to 2.5x your income, right? You want to go from 100K a month to 250K a month. You want to 2.5x your earnings. And you're already thinking, oh, I'll remove myself from the business. I said, you are the business, and you have to understand that, and sometimes there's nothing wrong with that. Listen, to pocket and take home $250,000 a month is no easy task. And I think this is where sometimes info people idolize other businesses, like, for example, e-commerce. You know, I'm no big player in e-commerce yet. You know, we're aggressively scaling. Our issue is stock, quite frankly. But, you know, I'll give you an example of my business partner who bought 40% of the company in May. He's done over $1 billion in e-commerce. And I have many friends. You know, I'm literally talking dozens of friends in e-commerce that do, I find the range is anywhere from 25 to 50 million a year. Past 50 million a year in revenue is very, very difficult. There's very few brands that I see doing it. I have a couple friends that do it. But that 25 to 50 million, it's a very common territory for e-commerce. Maybe some people don't know, but I've been making physical products for half a decade now, for 5 years, technically being involved in e-com. Actually, even 6 years. And I've had it where stock has been held for 2 months. Now, luckily, I had cash flow from my agency and my info business. This is 6 years ago, so I didn't care, quite frankly. But if that's your livelihood, that can really mess you up. And that's why with e-commerce businesses, they do have to keep cash reserves. And that's another myth that I hear in the info business is like, oh, I need to keep cash reserves. I'm like, for what? Like, for what? Where is there going to be a situation where for 3 months you're not profitable? As an info business, a personality-led info business, if you're not profitable for 3 months in a row, you have to seriously reconsider, and whatever you're spending money on ads. And like, also the thing is with info businesses, your capex, as in your capital expenditure or your set costs, are not very high usually. Most of the time, most people, the majority amount of money they're spending is on ads. So if your ads aren't working for 3 months, of course you're going to turn off ads. I mean, if they're not working for 30 days, most of the time you're going to turn off the ads, or 6 weeks. So I just think there's a lot of principles that people apply from, for example, the e-com space or the software space that they take to info, but they're two very different businesses, and you need to understand that. You really need to understand the business model you're working with here. So yeah, you know, you got these info people who idolize e-com guys, and, you know, 30 million, those are big numbers. You know, these e-com guys, they'll flex their, by the way, this is if, I say this in the most polite way possible, this is if, you know, they're actually legit e-com guys, because, you know, I mean, this has been a playbook for 10 years now. We all know those e-com guys who will run at a break even just to sell their info products, which, in all fairness, you know, I've seen info people, you know how many info people I've seen talk about their 35, 25 million a year in revenue, and they've got 10% margins, 15% margins. You know, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors with this stuff, and I think that's why I always get very annoyed by it, because I just feel like there's a lot of misinformation, quite frankly. So just to round off that thought, you know, you got e-com guys who are doing 30 million in revenue, which are big numbers, 2.5 million a month, you know, in people's eyes. And then, you know, 6 million in profit, which of course is an incredible business. And then a lot of times they'll say, oh, but I could sell the business for X amount of multiples. Yeah, sure, if you can find a buyer. Like, you know, a lot of people who say that are people who have never sold a business. I actually sold 40% of my e-commerce business. Now, am I going to say it was a massive sale? No. Quite frankly, it's just because I wanted him on board, because, I mean, to have a business partner that actually scaled from 0 to 100 million a year within 3 years, sold his company for the amount he sold it for, and has done over $1 billion in e-commerce in the exact same industry, obviously is a very valuable asset. I can't just give him 40% of a business that's producing $2 million a year in profit. So I'm not even going to call that a sale, but my point is I have a lot of very close friends of mine in D2C. Can I invest in D2C e-com brands? So I'm on the opposite end where I actually evaluate these businesses. Yeah, sure, you could sell the business if you can find a buyer. It's not very easy with D2C e-com brands finding a buyer. So anyways, that's a separate discussion, but they'll come down to 6 million, and then 3 million of that they have to keep in the business, because generally that's a cash intensive business in terms of stock, in terms of ads, in terms of team, and that's the sort of business where a 30 million a year founder might only be able to take $1.5 million, 2 million a year out of business, which of course is great money. But if you compare the amount of work that they have to do compared to, for example, the gentleman that's trying to get to 250K a month, his life is, info people, listen, your life is easy. And I think sometimes there's nothing wrong with that, and there's nothing wrong with admitting that to yourself. Like, I always knew that info is a 3 out of 10 difficulty business. I would say e-com is a 5 or 6 out of 10 difficulty business. I would say software is like a 9 out of 10 difficulty business. But also what's interesting is info starts off really, really easy the first few years and then gets substantially harder. So it starts like difficulty is here and then ecom difficulty is here. If you get past the first 3 years in ecom, it goes to like here. Like ecom becomes substantially easier than info. I would say after 5 or 6 years in info, it becomes one of the most difficult businesses in the world. And I can say that hand on heart as someone who's clocked in 6 years in a row of year-on-year increase in profits, which I've never seen any info business do, ever. So yeah, I just think, if you're in the info space, the grass is not always greener. And going back to the main point of the video, the whole selling your time thing, I said, you do realize how out of touch with the reality you are. You want to double your income from 100K a month to 250K a month, but you want to remove yourself from the business already, even though the reason a lot of these people are buying is for you. They watch your content, they watch your VSL, they went through your webinar, they went through all of these things, but yet you want to remove yourself from the business. I'm like, what if you gave all these people a one-on-one? He's like, I don't know about that, blah, blah. I said, listen, if you gave 10 people a one-on-one, you're doing 10 hours of service delivery to 2.5x your income. You have to spend, let's call it even 3 hours a week, speaking to your customers, speaking to your clients. And you're going to go from 100K to 250K in profit. Now, of course, listen, could he have sold some of those people into 15K offer without a one-on-one? Sure. But I know for a fact that he will increase his conversion rate by 50%, probably even 100%, because people want access to him. And that's just the truth of it. And I will let you guys in on a little secret. I told the team about a month ago, I said, anyone who joins 8FL, in full transparency, because I don't like to waste people's time, 8FL is $18,000. We don't let more than 30 businesses a month in. So we have a 30 a month hard limit. I told the team, anyone who joins 8FL, give them a one-on-one with me. And they thought I was crazy. They're like, what are you talking about? Like, you don't have the time for that, blah, blah, all this stuff. I said, okay, let's do the math. I charge 18 grand. And also we tested these things. The conversion rate went up by like double. If we were closing twice as many people and I am charging 18,000 an hour basically, because everything else inside of 8FL, that runs without me. That's kind of passive. That 30 times 18,000, that comes out to 540,000 a month per year. That comes out to roughly about $6.5 million a year. So you're telling me I can put another $6.5 million a year in my pocket, and I have to work 1 hour a day. And there's people who complain about that. Do you realize how out of touch the info space is sometimes? Do you realize why some people give us a bad reputation? Because we're delusional. A lot of people in the space are delusional, and you have a lot of delusional people who are taking concepts from multi-billion-dollar companies and trying to apply it to a business where you are the business. Now, the other side of things that I'll say is I make well over $10 million a year in profit from the automated side of things. So do I need to put an extra $6 million in my pocket from doing one-on-ones? And by the way, the other thing is, if you're watching this in 3 months or 6 months and you're like, oh, let me book in a call and let me get the one-on-one with Iman, it might be gone. And that's the truth of it. That's the beauty of, the info space, that you can run your business however you want. If I decide in 3 months, because usually I work really hard for 8 months a year, and it's not like I need to force myself to work hard. I just genuinely, all I care about is work. And then for 4 months a year, work becomes my third priority, and enjoying myself and living my life and, making sure that I'm rich in my memory bank account, because for me that matters more than money. I think a lot of people have this idea of me that I'm like, all I care about is money and this, that. Trust me, if all I cared about is money, I wouldn't have all these multiple ventures and I wouldn't have these businesses. I would just squeeze every single penny out of the info business, which I've done very well, but trust me, I could have squeezed a lot more. Or I would have taken some of the gambling deals I've been offered. So trust me, for me, money actually is my number one priority, and that's why having these multiple businesses, I don't recommend it for you guys at all. I really don't. Maybe once you've systemized your info business or whatever your main business is, you can move on to a secondary business. But from the amount of ventures that I have, I don't recommend it. Of course, I'm lucky I have a technical co-founder or a technical CEO really in place in all of these businesses, and they're really the spearheads, and I've gone pretty good at implementing. Basically, I have a technical co-founder in every business, and then I have an operator. And that operator actually for me is the most important person in the company. So for example, at my eyewear business, we just hired an operator, COO from Munich. So she's moving from Munich to our offices in Madrid. If you guys want me to talk about this stuff, I can talk about this stuff some other day. But, I don't want to get too off topic. I know my mind goes in 100 different directions sometimes. So yeah, I guess all that to say that, everyone in info says, don't sell your time for money. It's like, okay, well, what if you can make your time so valuable that it's worth it? Now, here's the thing. Am I going to give in our mid-ticket product, which is $1,000 to $1,500, am I going to give everyone a one-on-one with me? No, absolutely not. Of course not. That would be ridiculous. But could I do some sort of group leverage thing? Or maybe it's some sort of Black Friday offer, and for the next 14 days, I do a 1-hour call every single day for the next 14 days, and it's like this immersive experience. And then if you think about how much extra you're going to add in bottom line because of that, and you divide it by 14 hours, 1 hour a day for the next 14 days as an example, it could work out. And I think that's just really what people need to think about. Or for example, let's say it doesn't make sense for you to do a one-on-one with every single person. Let's see, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I'll just say how it is. I genuinely believe I'm number one expert, and my numbers and my track record seems to suggest, at least in the last 5 years, I would say if I did it at one price point, like just high ticket, it'd be a different conversation, or just mid ticket, it'd be a different conversation. But the fact that I've been able to do it low ticket, mid ticket, and high ticket to the level that I have, I genuinely would say I'm the number one expert in the world at info, especially because of my background as well, running an agency for info businesses. For someone, they're more than willing to pay $18,000 for an hour with me. In fact, I'll actually just prove it. I'll get the team to put on a clip from Modball.
It's a networking opportunity for an amazing lunch or dinner in London with him. He's the social media marketing guru, set up IAG Media, knowing twice, £20,000. I'm going to sell at £21,000, but I'll tell you what, would you do it at 20 and you'll do it at 20? Because the man is going to do it twice. 20,000, would you take it, boys? £20,000 each, that's 40,000 for the charity. Give a massive round of applause.
It was the first time actually I ever sold my time for money, but all the money went to charity. Is two individuals both paid £20,000 each, so $25,000 for a 1 hour dinner with me. So there we go. They paid the 25 grand for 1 hour dinner, 25 grand for 1 hour of my time, and that did not include everything that people get inside AFL as well. So I know people are willing to pay these prices. Maybe you need to get to a point where your time is more valuable and you can charge 3 grand an hour, 5 grand an hour. Let's say you're accepting, you're doing the 1 hour a day thing and you're doing 30 one-on-one calls a month. The point of this video as well is I'm not trying to tell you should do one-on-ones. Do whatever is right for your business, and if that is a non-negotiable, you don't want to do it, it's your business. That's the beauty of it. You can structure your business as you want, and maybe I'll make it as a point where in a few months I'm like, hey, screw this one-on-one, we make way too much money already, I'm not interested. But for me, really, I find there's times in the day, everyone has their different schedule. I actually have a time in the day between around like 1 to 4 o'clock, because most of my work done now at this stage, the past couple of years, I'm usually working until 3 a.m. most days. So 6 p.m. to 3 a.m., that's where I get my best work done, because that's when all my team is live from 6 p.m. until midnight usually, and then usually from midnight to 3 or 4, I get really in-depth work done solo. Or at least with my leadership teams. So I actually wake up at 9, and I'm a slow starter. I'm not really a morning person these days. For example, what I did even over Christmas is my entire team was off Christmas. So, I told my assistant, I said, listen, book me in 8 hours of one-on-ones. And for me, I'm just like, some people might look at that and be like, oh, you lost a day of your time. And it's like, yeah, sure, I spent 8 hours on the phone. First of all, I love talking about this shit, so for me, it doesn't feel like work. That's the one. Maybe that's the other thing. Maybe if it's something that you genuinely hate talking about, it's a different story, and that could be a non-negotiable for you. But because it's something I genuinely love talking about, and I love helping business owners, especially in this industry, because I feel like they've just been so misled for so long. Yeah, some people might look at that and be like, oh, he sold his time for money. It's like, yeah, well, I guess technically, but I also walked away from that day, from those 8 hours with $150,000 in my pocket. Of course, that money was already collected, but you get my point. A lot of info businesses will flex their revenue, and then it's like a lot of times they don't even walk away with 150 grand in their pocket every month. And I did that in one day from some efforts during Christmas when no one was live anyway, so I knew that was going to be a wasted day, and I'm not a big Christmas person. So yeah, I think all that to say that, imagine if you did sell 30 units of something and you added a one-on-one aspect, you could schedule it where there's just 2 days of the month or 3 days a month where you just batch it all together. And that's cool as well. Or maybe you say that my time's not worth it to ever do one-on-ones. I get it. I'm a very extreme example. Not even the top lawyers in the world can charge $18,000 an hour. Even very few of the best tax advisors in the world can charge $18,000 an hour. But when you get to the top of, okay, maybe some people may argue I'm not the number one expert in the info space, but I think it's without doubt, without reason, I don't think anyone can make a case that I'm not top 3. Once again, I'll still hold that top 1 spot in my mind, and I think I have a very strong case for it. But whatever, let's even just say top 3. So for someone to pay $18,000, and these are businesses, usually all the businesses in the AFL, we don't accept any business doing less than $250,000 a year, but most businesses in there are doing at least $1 million a year in profit, up to, we have some people in there even doing $10 million a year in profit. So for them to make $1 million a year and pay 18 grand, and I will totally redirect and reposition and set a lot of the things that they were doing wrong right. It's more than worth it for them. Now, I'll give you an example. Let's say I was working with agencies. Very few agencies in the world are going to pay me 18 grand, right? So my expertise in the agency space is not the same expertise I have in the info space, right? And that's also why at some point we had a higher ticket agency program, but when I shut down my agency, I also shut down my higher ticket agency program, because that was just like an ethical decision. I didn't feel right teaching people how to scale to $40,000, $50,000 a month with their agency when I had just shut mine down. You know, a lot of people say, oh, he shut down his agency, blah, blah, this, that. Come on, I was teaching people how to get to 10K a month. And also, I taught like 5% of it. I brought the best experts in the world, like literally the best experts in the world. You know, guys like my friend Guillaume, the guy who owns Lemlist. Like, imagine you bring the best outreach expert on, or you bring the guy who owns the outreach software that literally every single agency owner uses. You know, this guy's worth $400 million. You know, I could throw him $1 million and he wouldn't care. You know, it's a respect thing. You know, it goes much farther than money to be able to get some of these guys on that I got inside of my 1K program, teaching people how to get to 10K a month with their agency. But that's an example right there where I wouldn't be able to charge a lot for my time. So that's another factor, and that's another consideration, is maybe you're in an industry where your one-on-one time isn't as valuable. But in that case, what I would do is maybe I would have VIP days. So, you know, I sell a VIP day, and, you know, maybe someone isn't going to pay 18 grand for one-on-one, but they'll pay 5 grand a pop, and you can easily get 10 people, and you do a VIP immersion day, or maybe even an immersion activity or an immersion dinner or experience, or where it's only 3 or 4 hours or whatever it may be, and you collect 50 grand. So I know this is very long-winded. I apologize, I think, because I have so many businesses and so many different industries and verticals, and low ticket, high ticket, this, that, physical product, software, info, like my mind goes in a bunch of different directions quite often, so excuse me for that. I know this isn't my most well put together video, and to be honest, who knows, I might not even upload this. I guess the main message of this video is just be very careful applying another business or another industry's blueprint to your own. Like, for example, don't sell your time for money. What's great advice in one industry is really bad advice in another industry. And the blueprint that works for one kind of business, even in your industry, like, for example, if I tried to follow Masterclass's blueprint, I probably would have been bankrupt by now, you know, because it's just a very different kind of business, okay? So a blueprint that works for one business in your industry may be a horrible blueprint for you. And just the last aspect I want to leave you with, as a person in multiple different verticals, the grass is never greener. You know, every business has its pros and cons, and I'm being dead serious. Every e-com founder I know wants to get into info. Every info guy I know wants to build a brand and exit, you know, which, as I said, is the whole exit thing is just like, it's almost like it's cute that people think it's just that easy. Like, I'm telling you right now, exiting brands, as someone who has a lot of friends who have actually done it, and as a person who is a buyer, like an actual active investor, at least once a quarter I'm investing in D2C brands, I can tell you it's definitely not as easy as people make it out to be. So to end on this video, don't be afraid to sell your time for money unless your time is not valuable enough. Like, for example, let's say I was doing one-on-one in the agency space, I wouldn't be able to charge the prices that for me I would feel comfortable actually doing any one-on-one. So if you can't sell your time for money, sell your time in a leveraged way for money. But the point is, you are the business. I hate to break it to you. If you're in a personality-led info business, if you use your face, which is, you know, 99% of profitable, okay, very profitable, not revenue, profitable info businesses out there. If you do run a personality-led info business, you're not going to sell the business, and that's the truth of it. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, okay? Taylor Swift is not going to sell Taylor Swift Corporation, okay? It's not going to sell it for a 5x multiple. And that's fine, because she has cash flow. And I can tell you, when you have cash flow, it's the best thing in life. It truly is. So I think just be a little bit more grateful for the opportunities that info provides to you. And, you know, sometimes be a little bit more realistic, and just understand when you're reading some of these books about multi-billion-dollar companies and the way that they do things, that, you know, you can apply some concepts, but that doesn't mean that just because they run their business that way, that you should run your business accordingly. So with fear of ranting on, blabbering, I don't think I've ever posted a rant or something long form like this. This is like, I have at least one of these conversations on a myriad of different topics, at least once a day. I'm known in my circles for, once you get me started on a topic, I can't stop talking stuff. Yeah, for fear of ranting on too much longer, just want to sign off, wishing you guys all the best. Genuinely, one of the reasons I created this channel is similar to the C19 situation. I just feel so lucky and blessed for what info has done for my life. I only really know one individual who is like me in the past 5 years, who's cashed out between 50 to 100 million met from this and played the game right, and we both have actual very similar philosophy, even though we're in two very different countries. I respect that guy immensely. I truly do. And him and I talked a lot about how obviously it's kind of great because it's worked for us, but a little bit how sad we are that a lot of people were just kind of like sheep led to a slaughterhouse in the info space, and how I would like to see you win. And I think a lot of the advice out there, I don't think it's malicious. I don't think they're trying to set you on the wrong track, but unfortunately that's what ends up happening. So I hope you enjoyed, and as always, I'm watching from afar and I'm rooting for you.